In 2011, a newly appointed CEO was fired just weeks after taking the job, not for failure, not for incompetence, but for asking one simple question: where did $1.7 billion go? Today, we talk about corporate frauds, hidden losses, and whistleblowers risking everything to expose the truth. But years before the world became obsessed with financial transparency, Japan witnessed a scandal so shocking it shattered the image of one of its most respected companies. This is the story of Olympus, and the CEO who refused to stay silent. Olympus Corporation was not just any company. Founded in 1919, it became one of Japan's most iconic brands. Known globally for its cameras, medical equipment, and optical technology, Olympus built a reputation for precision, innovation, and trust. For decades, it represented the best of Japanese corporate culture, discipline, loyalty, and quiet excellence. But behind that polished image, a secret was growing, and it had been hidden for years. By the early 2011, Olympus was a global powerhouse. Its medical division dominated the endoscope market. Its cameras were used by professionals around the world. Revenues were strong, the brand was respected, and investors believed they were looking at a stable, well-managed company. But there was a problem that didn't appear in any official report. Back in the 1990s, Olympus had made a series of bad investment decisions. Like many Japanese companies during that time, it had invested heavily in financial markets. And when those investments failed, the losses were massive, hundreds of millions of dollars. Eventually, over $1 billion. Instead of reporting these losses honestly, Olympus executives made a decision. They would hide them, not temporarily, but for as long as necessary. This was the beginning of a decades-long cover-up. Executives used complex accounting tricks to move losses off the company's books. They created shell entities, shifted bad assets, and used acquisitions to bury the truth. Olympus began acquiring companies at highly inflated prices. Then, they paid enormous advisory fees, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars, to obscure where the money was actually going. On paper, these deals looked like strategic investments. In reality, they were designed to hide losses. Year after year, the deception continued. And almost no one outside the inner circle knew. Then came Michael Woodford, a British executive who had spent decades inside Olympus. In 2011, he was promoted to CEO, the first non-Japanese CEO in the company's history. At first, it seemed like a sign of change, a move toward globalization, a new chapter for Olympus. But within weeks of taking the role, Woodford noticed something strange. He began reviewing past acquisitions, and what he found didn't make sense. Massive payments, unusual advisory fees, deals that appeared financially irrational. So he did what most executives would do. He asked questions, but the answers he received were vague, dismissive, evasive. The more he pushed, the more resistance he faced. So Woodford took a step further. He hired external experts to investigate, and what they uncovered was explosive. Evidence of hidden losses, suspicious transactions, and a pattern that pointed to a long-running financial cover-up. Woodford confronted the board. He demanded explanations, transparency, accountability. But instead of answers, he was fired. Just 2 weeks after becoming CEO, Michael Woodford was removed from his position. The official reason? Management differences. But the real reason was clear. He knew too much. What happened next changed everything. Instead of staying silent, Woodford went public. He spoke to the media, shared documents, and exposed the truth behind Olympus. Suddenly, a quiet internal issue became an international scandal. Investigations began immediately. Regulators in Japan and abroad stepped in, and the full scale of the fraud started to emerge. Olympus had hidden approximately $1.7 billion in losses. Not for a year, not for a quarter, but for decades. The company had used acquisitions and accounting tricks to systematically bury its financial failures. It was one of the largest and longest-running corporate frauds in Japanese history. The market reacted fast. Olympus stock price collapsed. Investors lost confidence, and the company's reputation was severely damaged. Executives were arrested. Top management, including former chairman Tsuyoshi Kikukawa, faced criminal charges. Several were eventually convicted for their roles in the fraud. The scandal exposed deep flaws in corporate governance within Japan, a system where loyalty often outweighed accountability, where questioning authority was discouraged, and where insiders could operate without scrutiny. But the story didn't end with collapse. Unlike many companies caught in scandals, Olympus survived. Its core business, especially in medical technology, remained strong. The company restructured, leadership changed, and reforms were introduced. Michael Woodford, the man who exposed everything, became a symbol of corporate whistleblowing. He had risked his career, his reputation, even his personal safety, to reveal the truth. The Olympus scandal forced Japan to rethink its corporate culture. It triggered discussions about transparency, governance, and the role of independent oversight. And it sent a clear message to global investors. Even the most respected companies can hide the darkest secrets. But it also raises a deeper question. How many companies today are still hiding losses behind complex accounting? How many executives know the truth but choose to stay silent? So what do you think? Was Olympus a victim of a broken system? Or a company that knowingly chose deception over honesty? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Because in the world of corporate power, fraud doesn't always begin with greed. Sometimes it begins with a single bad decision, a loss no one wants to admit, and a choice to hide the truth. Just one more time, until the lie becomes too big to control, and by then, it's already too late